Make sure we're good. Everybody's here as friends or like us, so I think we can manage to screw up a couple times. I really just thought that mic was a little bit better quality and picked up everything a little bit clearer, but it has a nasty habit of just randomly disconnecting. That was
I mean,
the
I heard you find Skype. I guess
yeah.
the
I don't know why.
listeners.
Well, it pulls out. It'll disconnect and then automatically reconnect, so Skype can pick it up. But
Mm,
for OBS, you have to reset the whole thing. And it's in chat you see Sheffy 423 one spamming
yeah,
Dan's game shit. Yeah, it was his mic that I bought from him. It's a Steel Series headset, really nice. It's actually really nice, but it's started doing that
the,
in the last
the
month.
mic. Yes, I've never had a Steel. I've bought over 3 SteelSeries headsets. I've never had one that the mic lasted longer than a month, and it's a damn shame because the headsets are amazing.
Yep.
The mic is terrible.
Somebody says I still sound the same. Do I sound
Hold on,
fine to
let
you,
me hear it.
Chevy? Yeah, go ahead and listen. If I listen, we'll just play back.
No, you sound fine on the podcast.
Huh. Maybe his internet's
Maybe it was
doing
a
something.
hoax and they're like messing with us,
Yeah,
and they
maybe
just like trolled the hell out of us.
it's possible.
They just want to hear us for longer. So
Hmm. I could see people wanting to hear me for a lot longer. Well, anyway. Uh,
see, we got one saying sounds fine. Like he's just trolling us.
okay.
Sheffy the troll.
Okay. No, it wasn't Chevy. It was Rokai. It must be something maybe with his. Yeah, it's supposed to be louder. I can turn it down a little bit. We good though? Good volume. I mean, I might as
Yeah.
well get it all right before we start.
Yep. In a way.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Vopy? What do you think, Chevy? What do you think, Alki? Thrainen's in here.
Oh, that's cool. He's what is he listening from the airport?
No, he could turn it on 4G and put it on his phone. He said the internet is don't tell wasn't good enough. No troll, but a little noisy. Okay, sounds good to Alki. Okay, whatever. Well, let's get back into it. So in the grand finals, we had SK Gaming versus Skillcapped EU. Game one started off with Skillcapped's RMD beautifully controlling SK to kill Swapsy on the Grand Arena without dampening even taking into effect. Game 2 ended excitedly on Ruins as SK Gaming pushed on Skillcap Resto Druid healing stat all game, only to switch to the Rogue Pry at the very last minute to execute him within a few seconds and tie up the series 1-1. Game 3 on Tolvaron Arena had the casters calling the game for Skillcapped as Swapsy was down to 10% with his healer Botar and a full polymorph, but they ended up holding on to go all the way to 32% dampening in a back and forth game and finally come back to a 2-1 up against with SK Gaming up 2-1. This game had my vote for the best game in the tournament until the finals, but then game 4 on Tiger's Peak ended much quicker as Skillcap manages to kill Botar with Barkskin up in 4 seconds in the most concentrated burst I've ever seen in a tournament to tie it up 2-2. And then the finals we can talk a little bit more about. Go on what you wanted.
Um. Well, no. Well, I think I hear a little echo. Check, check, check. Okay, we're good. No. It was exciting back and forth. I was thinking SK was gonna take it all, and then after watching those matches, it could have been anyone's game. But at the end, yeah, SK took it over. I don't really remember the final match too well. If you want to elaborate exactly what happened.
It was a very, very epic game on Dalaran Sewers. One of the most intense battles I've ever seen. It was a back and forth over and over and over again. I
All right,
thought
sewers.
so many times that the Deep Freeze Ring of Frost on a Botar was going to end it and that Skill Cap was going to come out with the victory. But finally, after this back and forth where Botar would be at 10% and run away, and then Healing Stat, the other Rest Druid, would be almost dead, And then Swapsy, the enhanced shaman, would be almost dead on the other team, and then Raikou would be almost dead, and then probably the rogue would be almost dead. The whole game was like that. It was these huge concentrated bursts. Somehow they called the game like 6 times. This is it. This is it, and it never ended up being it until the very end. Raikou is killed at the same time Swapsy sits at about 10 or 15%, and SK Gaming wins 3-2 and is crowned our 2015 WoW Arena BlizzCon champions.
Honestly, they were the best two teams there, and it's funny the casters mentioned that they were the only two teams that lost to each other. I mean, they only lost to each other. Like they haven't lost to any other teams but each other. So it's like a grudge match. It came back at the end, and who did you think was gonna win this?
Beforehand, I thought the EU had the stronger teams. I thought that probably Skill Cap would win just because RMD is so heavily favored in the meta right now, and everybody thinks it's the best team. With that said, during the finals, I cheered for SK Gaming because I thought it would be much more fun if an enhanced with Shaman won, because one hasn't ever won before.
Yep,
But,
it was the first time.
um,
No, with at first yeah, I wasn't too sure who I was going for, but after seeing how SK was performing, man, their whole team was just on point. I didn't really see too many mistakes or any. They were just playing so amazing the entire tournament. They were definitely the best team there, least mistakes made. Their whole synergy, you could tell they just have this amazing synergy. They just worked so well together. They would all go on defense together and just go all out together. They were just best team by far. Well, not by far. But you could definitely tell the best team won. Also, SK, I gotta give it to them too. They just destroyed all the American teams. I kind of feel bad for NA. It's such good teams, and the European teams just went through them like nothing. It's insane.
it was actually what was crazy to me was that. Before that, that semifinals was Tempo Storm versus them, and they were scared to play RMD into SK Gaming. They didn't want to do that. They played that Arcane Mage team into them, and they did take off one game, but much more interesting was the finals where Skill Cap decided they were going to stick with their RMD even though they had a disadvantage, and they still took 2 games off of them in a best of 5, and only lost by 1 game. They could have very easily won that tournament. It could have very easily went the other way. So I agree. I think I think the American teams played very well, and up until they played those 2 teams, they looked unstoppable. Both Cloud9 and Tempo Storm looked crazy, but then once it got to the finals, it just looked like there was no coming back, and the European teams. And I got to take it back from week 2. I said that I think that after those couple European teams, Mimpoke's team, to be specific, got disqualified, that I thought there was no chance that EU would have a chance this year, but turned out they did, first and second, just like last year. I did want to mention, it was really interesting, they talked about the Warlock on SK Gaming team, Fabs or Fabio. He's the first player to ever win BlizzCon 2 times, ever. And
Even though he didn't
play a single game during the tournament.
He didn't play, but he still wins. But yeah, whatever. I guess that's cool. I'm sure he wasn't there for no reason. Like he was there.
Yeah, I'm sure he coached and helped him with all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah, and he must be an amazing player. Just in case they needed him, but their main team was just so good that they didn't even need him.
And I think they were playing that LSD3 before, and then it got nerfed. But I did want to mention we did have Vinruki on in week 4. That would have been the week before you joined, and he told us this terrible, terrible story. It was back in the I wrote 2015, but it was back in the 2010 BlizzCon match of versus Fab's team versus Complexity, which would have been Soda, Snuts, and Vinruki. And that was that game that they
Oh
their
yeah, yeah, I remember.
complexity team killed Fab's healer, and but it was like 4 seconds later than the timeout, so they had to go back to the rules, and they ended up timing them out after they called complexity the winner and said how this is amazing, they've already won. They all came up there and hugged, and it was such a happy event. Vernicky told us it was the worst thing that's ever happened to him in a game. But that was Fab's team, actually. That Warlock was on that team of that year. That was his team. Um, so
So
that was the tournament that he won BlizzCon before. So now he's won it twice. So.
So in other words, Fabs needs to play the lottery because that man is lucky. He's won
Yeah,
BlizzCon
he won
twice
it.
on flukes.
Yeah, he
No
won it
offense to him.
once by 3 seconds and twice on the second time
Not
without
even
playing a
playing
game.
by getting carried.
Yeah, I mean, so speaking of carried, I do have a question for you. Who do you think your player of the entire tournament is? If you had to pick one,
Player of the entire
win or
tournament.
lose, doesn't matter if they lost the tournament or whatever.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a winner. A winner. Um, I'm mostly it's between it's just you could literally pick anyone on SK's team and right there is player of the tournament, MVP of the tournament. I'm not sure if it's Swapsy or it's just their whole team was so good together. They played as one.
Okay, well,
I
I'm
would say
making
Swapsies.
you pick Swapsy,
If I had to pick one, I would say Swapsies, but
the
I'd
unkillable
give it to all of them.
shaman. I
Yeah.
gotcha. My player of the tournament is actually Joe Fernandez, their warrior. I thought he was incredible. He would stick on people. He had these sick triple shockwaves that like shouldn't have even landed every single time. He was spell reflecting sheeps in the middle of that were really clutch that the casters couldn't even keep up with. And
Mhm.
I thought it was really good. I
No,
think,
for sure.
and
And
Joe Fernandez looks like a man. We were watching on the thing.
he
Like
looks
all the
like a
others
man.
are just little nerds, like and just
Yeah.
nerdy WoW players, like normal. He's a man.
Where is he from?
I think he's from Spain. I
Okay,
think.
yeah, because that name. I mean, his last name is actually Fernandez.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah. That is
But
his actual name is Joe Fernandez.
yeah, so
So, which is cool. He's a man. He doesn't care about
he looks Middle Eastern though.
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe. I think
yeah,
he's Spanish, or I would think so. I mean, let's
yeah, especially
see.
that name. But yeah, I mean that's relevant. It's just wondering.
Yeah,
Definitely an
we were
amazing
all
player.
asking that too. So, um,
He
what?
definitely saved Swapsies like a bunch of times.
Yeah,
Like
those
that team.
vigilances, like that
Oh
was what they were
man.
going nuts about. Did you read any of the Legion class previews today? Did you read the Hunter one specifically? I know you read the
I
Mage
read the
one.
Hunter one,
I'm
just
gonna
the
go
Beast
ahead and
Mastery and the Survival.
okay. I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the Paladin one because I think it just came out like 10 minutes
Oh,
ago.
I
I'm
actually
gonna
haven't
I'm
seen
gonna
that
go
one.
ahead and pull it up while you talk about this one real quick. Go ahead.
About the Hunter one?
Sure.
Sure. Let me bring it up. Well, I want to most notably talk about Survival Hunter, um, which I believe is the melee one. And
Yeah,
they're
that's
also
right.
going to be, yeah, they're also what they're saying is they're also going to be the only class using traps. The other classes are going to get some sort of CCs, but Survival's going to be the only one using traps. Most noticeably, it seems like a really fun class. The way they're doing it with the harpoon and the melee stuff. They're bringing back Raptor Strike. It used to be like the hunters filler attack when people got in their dead zone, which back then hunters had a range where they couldn't use their arrows, so they would have to use like physical ability, like melee range abilities. Rapture Strike is one of them. They also got like a what was it? It was like a hamstring type of effect. Wing clip, yeah, reduce.
Mongoose or something. Yeah, wing clip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wing clip, dirty focus, maims the target, reducing their movement speed. But it seems like a very combo-y burst class. Mongoose bite, that's the one I think that does all their damage. Instant 10-second recharge, 3 charges, a brutal attack attempting to sever the enemy's limb, dealing strong physical damage. And then, where else do I see it? There's something with Mongoose Bite. I think every consecutive, here you go. Each consecutive Mongoose Bite dealt within 3.5 seconds of the last will deal 50% increased damage, stacking up to 6 times. And I think this was a talent, Snake Hunter. Instant 1 minute cooldown instantly grants you 3 charges of Mongoose Bite. So pretty much you could spam Mongoose Bite 6 times with all that together, and just it seems like insane amount of burst damage.
And to
Um,
note, they are going to have like a little bit of a dead zone the way it reads too, because some of that stuff is 5 to 40 yards and some of it's melee. So they are bringing back a hunter dead zone.
well, for survival,
Yeah, for survival.
but it's like a melee class, so that would make more sense
Right.
having
And it
having
could
a
be really interesting. We could see double hunter in a 3v3 because we've got a ranged and only what is it? Only marksman will have traps now.
yeah, it's
So
no survival.
oh, it's only survival. I don't have traps.
Or was it marksman? No, I think it
Oh,
was
one of them
survival.
only have traps.
Yeah, but they're using different types of CCs for each one. I really like how survival sounds though. It sounds like a really crazy like build up your burst and just unleash it all. And they have their pet fighting side with them. They gave survival like a kill command. It's
Yeah, I
yeah,
really
it's
like that.
called flanking strike. 20 focus, 25-yard range from pet. Instant 6 second cooldown. Give the pet command to kill, causing your pet to instantly inflict strong damage to its target. So it's pretty much a kill command for survival hunters, which is weird.
I think the coolest thing about this is it's way different and it's going to be unique, and
Hmm.
I think that's really important to the game right now. I think with what they're doing to PvP, they're going to be able to balance a lot easier, so that's not as huge of an issue. I think they need to have unique, fun spells to use and then balance them from there.
Yeah, not only are they bringing new classes, they're completely revamping. I mean, doing what they're doing with survival hunter is like a new class, pretty much.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
That's
I
kind of
like
like
what.
what they did in Kata. You know, they deleted mana from hunters and gave them focus, and that was a big deal.
Mhm.
But this is even bigger, I think. So
I've noticed by far hunters uh, have seen the most change throughout the WoW history
that's
of
true.
any other class. They are a completely different class from when they started. I think back then they had like a 10-yard dead zone where it was just you could just like stay inside melee range and destroy them. It
And
was
you
pretty
know they
ridiculous.
were still good even then. Like
Yeah.
they've
Well, you had
always
that
that
beast
class has
mastery.
always figured out a way to be strong. So
Yeah.
well, the next class we have a couple more for you today. Next class is priest, and there were some stuff in holy and discipline that were probably worth talking about. But since we are limited on time, the biggest changes were done to shadow priests. So I thought we'd go ahead and talk about them a little bit. They got a new resource called insanity. So they're no longer going to have mana or orbs. They thought it was a better fit for shadow, having more granul- granularity, which is what they called it, and gameplay that emphasizes on immense but fleeting power that the Void offers. Mind Blast, Shadow Word, Pain, and Vampiric Touch will build insanity. Reaching maximum insanity will transform Shadow form into Void form, giving the Shadow Priest access to stronger Void magic. But it is unable to be maintained indefinitely, so this is going to be kind of like the Balanced Druid's Eclipse that has been seen in the past.
Hmm. I think it's still similar to how Shadow Priest still work in a way with the orbs where you just build up orbs and then you build up burst. But one thing I would really want to note, they previewed one of the talents, which was it's called Oblivion. It reads instant 2 minute cooldown. Let the power of the void flow through you, instantly generating 100 insanity. So that gives them the option to just complete controlled burst whenever they
Yeah,
want,
we'll
and I
pop
think
it in
it's
the
awesome.
opener, and I think that is really equivalent to the Boomkin spell, and they can hit that, and they're automatically in both Eclipse stance, so both of their stuff does massive damage right now.
And it gives Shadow something I don't think they've ever really had before, like an instant controlled burst whenever they want like that.
And it's going to make every single one of their skills get a little extra buff to it, um, sort of like Soul Burn does for Warlocks, I guess, right now. It's going to be kind of like that. So it says while in void form, your shadow spells are going to do 30% more damage. You're going to gain 2% haste every second, and then that haste will persist for 20 seconds after void form ends. It's going to cause your insanity to constantly drain, which is surprising. It's going to be like burning your own rage over and over. Your mind flay is going to extend your shadow word pain damage while in void form. Your mind blast is going to extend your vampiric touch by a few seconds while in void form. And each time your vampiric touch deals damage, it generates 3 insanity. Each time your shadow word pain deals damage, it generates 3 insanity. And they got a new mastery, which increases the damage and insanity generation of all your spells by 20%. And then, like you said, they got their Oblivion talent, which pops you from 0 to 100. I think it's going to be really common for people to pop that straight in the opener and then build from there. Which isn't
maybe they'll make a rogue Shadow Priest more viable again. That was the thing back then.
Yeah, RPS.
That'd be fun to see.
RPS.
One thing I want to notice, the Mind Blast. When in void form, it decreases the cooldown to 4.5 seconds. But what I'm wondering is, are they? I hope they still have that talent where it makes their Mind Blast instant.
Instant, yeah.
And it also reduces the Mind Blast by like 4 seconds. So I wonder, like, is it gonna be like 1 second Mind Blast? I wonder how that's gonna work.
I don't know. We'll have to see, because one thing to note on all these changes, and a lot of people are disappointed, but we don't have the talents, we don't have the PvP talents, we don't have the glyphs or the weapon talents that we're going to have, so there's no telling how much all that stuff's going to change your character in ways he just described, and getting that instant blast, mind blast. But I guess moving on, we'll go ahead and finish this up tonight. We had Mage. You play a Mage, so I'll go ahead and let you talk about all you want about that, because they really didn't do much to Frost, so...
Yeah, I don't... what is there to talk about?
A Glacial Spike, the big...
The Mage, pretty much the only thing they've changed is... they didn't... It seems like the gameplay is going to be the same for Frost Mage, at least, which I don't really like where Frost Mages are right now. It's kind of boring. It's kind of like an Iceland spam Nova build. It's really boring to me. One most notable changes is Frostbolt has a 10% chance to reset the cooldown of your frozen orb, so yay, more Iceland spam. And there's a new talent where it gathers all your 5 icicles into one huge hit. I don't really know what was the cooldown on it, but once you have 5 icicles, you can unleash all 5 of them, and then your Icelands will no longer release icicles. So it's kind of like a controlled burst on your icicles. I do like that. That's cool.
Yeah. But the one thing to note about that is it is a 3-second cast time, so it's this big nuke, but it's going to be really hard to get off.
Giving Frost Mages like a pyro blast.
One thing that I'm excited about for Frost is they didn't say anything about Ice Nova, so I'm hoping they'll just get rid of Ice Nova and buff the other stuff a little bit more.
Well, it seemed like they buff Fingers of Frost a lot more, which is even more annoying. Because it literally just means more Iceland spam.
Well, I think setting up the shatters is more fun than just randomly hitting 2 Ice Nova. So we'll
exactly.
See. With Arcane Mage, we had one little talent that I thought looked really, really fun for PvP, so I thought I'd mention it. It's called Displacement. It's an instant cast, 1.5 minute cooldown, and it says for the next 4 seconds, casting Blink will no longer trigger its cooldown. So if you're on an Arcane Mage and he pops that, he is gone and you're not going to catch him.
Not for 4 seconds. It's Cloak of Shadows for mages.
And then you had some stuff to say about fire, I think, too.
Oh yeah, I really like what they're doing with fire. It's kind of like a dot spread spec. The effect what combustion used to do was it spread all your dots to all the nearby targets. Now combustion, what it does is I think it makes all your attacks critical for the next 10 seconds, which is insane. And what they added to ignite, it will passively spread your dots to, or it will spread the ignite dot to other targets. So it's like a passive AoE dot spread spec with lots of crit. So it sounds really fun. I might actually try that as a serious spec. I think fire might be viable. But
Yeah.
we'll still have to see more.
Yeah, we'll have to see all the talents and glyphs and stuff, but I think
But
that could be
fire
fun.
looks the most funnest. What they're doing with fire for sure.
So I do have the paladin stuff pulled up. It just came up about 30 minutes ago. As far as I can tell, there's only a couple things that really stand out to me. Um, let's see. The mastery for holy has changed. It says proximity to your target causes your spell to heal up for 30% more. So depending on how close they are, it doesn't say which is which. So maybe closer is more, or maybe further away is more. We don't really know. The other thing was they had the little beacon of the Lightbringer passive. It says the maximum bonus from the Mastery Lightbringer is increased by 24%, and your healing based on the target's proximity to either you or your beacon target, whichever is closer. So it's just going to increase that a little bit more. Seems like there's something else on Holy. Oh, okay. There's one. This is probably the biggest. It's a skill called Light of the Martyr. It is a 2% mana, 40-yard range heal that sacrifices your health to instantly heal an ally, and it cannot be cast on yourself. So that's kind of like sacrifice
Emergency.
does sort of passively, except you're deciding to give their health to you. So it's like an active spirit link that you're throwing in chunks. I think that's really cool.
So it's over time. It's not like one big.
No, it's one deal. It doesn't say how much it is, but it's like a flash heal of transferring your health to their health.
So okay.
So it's gonna be
That sounds. I wonder. Yeah, the big thing there to know is how much it is.
Yeah.
That. Either way, though, it's really good bubble, emergency bubble. You could pop that depending.
And it sounds like a pretty easily balanced skill because it's going to take the same amount of health from the healer that it gives to the next guy. So we could see it might not.
A quick swap, but I mean, positioning is that skill's called positioning.
Yeah. We're not going to talk about Prot, obviously. Rhett had.
Hey, who knows? Who knows? They do make PvP specs sometimes.
Yeah, occasionally. Depends what patch we're in. Most of the Rhett stuff stayed relatively the same, not counting talents and glyphs and all that stuff. But the mastery is now your Crusader Strike, Blade of Justice, Divine Storm, and Templar's Verdict deal 45% more damage. And Blade of Justice is just an extra, kind of like Crusader Strike, generates 2 holy power and does more damage. So I think it's maybe close to Exorcism. Exorcism maybe it's with like, because I don't say Exorcism on the list. But they did get this really, really cool 30-second cooldown. It's 30 yards range, and it's called Lothar's Might. It says it flings a blade of holy light to a target location. When you reactivate it, it will teleport the paladin to the blade and strike nearby enemies for moderate holy damage. And I know that we've seen this in several MOBAs, so I think it's really cool to see it in this. It does replace a talent called Hand of Hindrance, which they don't have listed, so we don't know what that is. It sounds like a slow to me, though. But yeah, that could be really cool. You get a little shadow step, type of thing.
Yeah, but what are we losing? Like, are we losing double Hand of Freedom? This slow dispels, you think?
Yeah, you might lose Burden of Guilt. You might lose a Freedom. Don't know what we're going to lose, but it says it replaces Hand of Hindrance, and that really sounds like a slow to me. So
that maybe Paladins will finally be able to 1v1 a Frost Mage.
Could be cool.
Yeah.
But I thought that sounded really cool. So in the coming days, we're going to have a lot more of the classes brought out. By the time you hear this on the podcast, it'll probably be late Tuesday night, so most of the stuff will be out. But Tuesday, they will release Warlock, Death Knight, and Shaman. On Wednesday, you'll be able to find the Warrior, Monk, and Druid classes. And then on Thursday, we'll see Rogue.
Mm-hmm. One thing I want to note real quick, it really is starting to seem they're giving an instant burst cooldown to every class, like a controlled burst cooldown for every class, it seems like, which is... I like how there's some classes have like different types of ways to build up their damage, and it just seems like every class
Yeah, I
is
think
just
so
gonna
too.
have their Swifty.
Actually, on that note, if you have ever watched the Elemental Shaman Novo or
Hmm.
Novos, he
Yeah,
has
the
just put out a
god.
blog today, and I put it on my Twitter at Rashiwi. You can find it, and he talks about some of the problems with WAD and how cooldowns are the major part of it, and not CC like a lot of people argue. And it's a very detailed blog. I recommend anybody to go read that.
Hmm.
So for next week, we would like you to take a minute and read all these Legion class previews and go ahead and email your thoughts or tweet us. You can email us at qpop@gmail.com. You can tweet me at Rashiwi or him at SnuffQT. And just tell us your thoughts on your main class or one of your main classes and how you think it's going to affect it so far. Just take into mind that read everything with a grain of salt because this is only partial information.
We still don't know what's to come.
That's right. And once again, I'd like to apologize for the technical difficulties that we had throughout the stream, but I think we've got them all figured out, and we'll go ahead and edit those in. So if you're listening to the podcast, you won't even hear me say this because I'll cut it out too.
Well,
So I'll go
thanks
ahead
for listening, guys, and we'll see you next week.
and let me go ahead and do a goodbye real quick. You can find Snuff on Twitter at SnuffQT. You can also find him on Twitch at twitch.tv/gotsnuff. You can find me on Twitter at Raishiwi and on Twitch at twitch.tv/Rashiwi. You can find the Q-Pop podcast every Monday live and raw at 5:30 PST on Twitch, where you can find all our wonderful mistakes and technical problems. And later in the week, you'll find it edited on SoundCloud, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, iTunes, and just about every app that you can think of. Be sure when you go on these apps to either like or star the podcast whenever you listen to it. And we will see you guys next week
Yeah.
with more news from.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah. If you guys can, it's very important. Reviews on iTunes, that would definitely help a lot. Stitchers, iTunes. If you give us some 5 stars reviews, we really appreciate it. Any critiques, criticism, we'd really appreciate the reviews, and it helps us. If you enjoy the show, it helps us get out there to more people.
It really does. And if you have a big Twitter, retweet us, all of our stuff too. That'll help too. So we will see you guys next week with more news about Legion from BlizzCon and the other class previews. From here on out, we plan on doing 11 segments for each class, and maybe even more depending on different classes. We're going to go through and talk about each class and what they could be for PvP in Legion. We've got a whole lot of interviews lined up, such as Absurge, the Resto Shaman that just played in BlizzCon, Walter Bear, the Feral Druid who just played, Snuts, BlizzCon champion Warlock. We might have Cubsy on, which is a Resto Druid from Cloud9. And we've also talked to Mez, the Death Knight, and and RZN, which is a former pro rank 1, multi-rank 1 rogue. So we have all kinds of that stuff lined up. So if you're interested in hearing from these guys who have played professionally in the past, be sure to check it out in the coming months. And we will see you guys next time on Q-Popped. Thanks for listening.